Hello, my name is Guilherme and I help engineers to be high-performing project managers. This content is part of the warm-up for the project management journey. Project management journey is an event that I make to talk about how to further develop your career into project management. The event is free, and if you're interested in that, click in the link here in the description and subscribe there for free. What I'm going to discuss here today is Scrum. Of course, as you can see in the screen, uh, I'm going to give you an overview about the, the fundamental part of Scrum that everyone should know to, of course, to use Scrum. That's a just basic view, and there's more that you need to learn, but this is just the first right step to go for. First of all, what's Scrum? Well, Scrum is one of the agile frameworks. So you can have a big agile umbrella there, and Scrum is one of those items. Why? Because under agile you also have extreme programming, you also have Kanban, you have lean software, and you can have other types of frameworks. So Scrum is one of them. Scrum is fully aligned with the Agile Manifesto and also with the 12 principles in the Agile Manifesto. Then everything there, it's also interesting to you to know. Something also very important is that on the PMBOK 7 edition, that changed for principle-based edition. Now, because the PMBOK is looking for project management more in a principle level, basically the PMBOK 7 edition can cover all types of project management framework. That means that the PMBOK 7 edition is including waterfall, it is including agile, and all its different frameworks that you can see there. So also Scrum is fully aligned with what's in the PMBOK 7 edition. That's a very important point. Also, of course, if you're going for a PMP exam, that's something interesting to know. But without further discussion, let's talk about Scrum. So basically, Scrum is based on empirism and lean thinking. I have always mentioned that my perspective, not only my perspective, but of course it's also there in the PMBOK, and it's also what you can find in the Scrum guide. Agile is a kind of evolution of lean. Basically, Agile it's based on the lean philosophy, and it was built on that. Why I'm saying that in my perspective? Because you can see people arguing and all that. I think those discussion does not make sense, but I just want to make sure that you know that. So Scrum is based on empirism and lean thinking. Basic empirism that you have empirism is what's that? It's that knowledge comes from experience. Then it's like an empirical type of knowledge, and of course your decision making should be based on what you observe. So it should be based on data and proven what is that you are seeing in reality. Empirism, the three basic the three basic principles of empirism, they are transparency, inspection, and adaptation. I'm going to come back to that. But also, Scrum is also based on the lean thinking or the lean philosophy there that you see there. What does the lean philosophy do for Scrum? Because that you're always looking for reducing waste. You are always focusing on what's essentials, but also with the lean thinking you have this high focus on value first, long-term philosophy, and of course respecting empowered people. When you talk about Scrum and Scrum guide, that you're going to see about a lot of empower your team, creating a self-managed team, and that's of course everything there. It's about empowered people. That's what when you combine when the creators they basically decide to combine empirism with the lean thinking, they come up with this Scrum. So Scrum by definition it's a lightweight framework and simple, and it does not intend to be complex. So if you want to read the Scrum guide, it has I believe 14 or 15 pages. That's something that should be very easy to go through. The idea of Scrum that's going to be built in the collective intelligence of people using that. So more people use that if they should reflect on the Scrum framework, and also to see how you can make better your work in general. Then that's why rather than provide people with a very detailed instructions or a step-by-step process for everything, Scrum has rules and then basically their relationship and interactions. So you have some items, this framework that's deemed not to be completed, and it's already said that it's also there in the Scrum Guide mentioned that's an incomplete framework, but that's on purpose. Why? Because you're just giving a frame, so can people start work on that, and you are assuming that, of course, if you have a collective intelligence, you can make use of this frame in the best way possible to bring the highest value possible that you have there. Uh, so talking about empiricism, basically empiricism is always based on transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Basically, the transparency part enables inspection. Why? Because you cannot inspect something that you do not have clarity. And of course, uh, inspection without transparency is also misleading. It's kind of how can you inspect something, but if you are not seeing, it's like if you are going to inspect a house, but half of the rooms of the house are closed, and you cannot really say what's the status, what's the really status of the house because you were not able to see everything. And that's why transparency it's the first step that you have there. And one of the ways to provide transparency, it's like using a Kanban board where you have your product backlog with all the requirements there where everyone can see the requirements, but also you have a sprint backlog where everyone has clarity what's going to be the goal and of course the scope of the sprint, but also you can track what's the progress of the sprint while the cards they progress in the Kanban. Here, when I'm talking about Kanban board, I'm just talking about the visual board mainly. I'm not talking about the Kanban framework where you talk about limiting work in progress and other type of stuff. It's mainly to make it this visual. Of course, you can use other stuff, not only Kanban, but Kanban is probably the most used one. Then, if you have the transparency, and that means that you can inspect things properly. And the important part here that this inspection will enable you to adapt because if you understand things that you need to improve, it makes easier to adapt. Here's of course it's important because if you inspect but you do not adapt, it's like a waste of time. See, like in the example of the house, you see, oh, there's an issue here, the house, whatever, but no one's going to do something with that. And why you were making an inspection? That does not make sense. The inspection is one step, but you also need adaptation. And the next step, then you go transparency, then you can enable inspection. When you talk about Scrum, you have inspection should go during the entire sprint, but you also have some dedicated rituals where the inspection there it's the focus, like the sprint review and sprint retrospective. But does not mean that you only do inspection those rituals there. You also can do it. You should do inspection during daily, doing all the work, and even during the play. And of course, it's expected that if you're expecting something, that you've seen something, that the Scrum team they are expected that they are going to adapt, because otherwise, if you're not adapting, does not make sense. So more you expect, more things you find out that you need to do, and more you are going to adapt. And then you keep learning, you keep building something incrementally. So that's the idea of empiricism. But that's why very important here that this needs to be based on data. Then it's not like you're going to expect something based on whatever idea or report. So, for example, you do a sprint review, and you're going to verify what was done there during the sprint, what's the deliverable that's there. Then you're going to understand based on this and based on like customer feedback or the product owner feedback what needs to change. But needs to be something concrete. It cannot be just anything without evidence. That's also about empirism, that you are looking for things in the real world that are there that you can do so you can work like that. So also very important when you talk about Scrum, and you are going to see this with a lot of focus there. First, when you talk about the Scrum core values, that's commitment, focus, openness, respect, and courage. Why this is important? This is connected with the lean thinking, because if you have a team that they are not committed with the work, if you have a team that does not have focus in what they're doing there, if the team is not open to show what they're doing, to show what their challenges are, it's going to be difficult to communicate. If they do not respect each other, that's also a problem, because then you have too much conflict inside of the team. Or maybe if you do not have respect, then they are not going to commit, they are not going to focus, or not going to be not going to be open, they are not going to be transparent, and then those things are a problem. And of course, courage, that's also quite important. Why? Courage to say that something is wrong, to share your perspective, to share your mindset. And of course, this is there as Scrum core values, and that all Scrum teams, they should work based on these values. And one of the jobs, of course, of the Scrum Master is making sure that everyone understands those values and everyone is working aligned with them. But here's one point: if you want this, because of course the Scrum guide is mentioned what are the Scrum core values, does not mean that if you are not using Scrum you should not have those values. Because if you want to have a high performing team, you need to have those values. I've never seen a good team in my life, or a high performing team, the ones that I worked on, but also the ones I've seen around me, that you do not have this commitment, this focus, this respect, this courage. Why? Because it gets basically impossible to work. If you want to have a high performing team, your team members, they need to have this sense of ownership. They need to work together, and that's what's that. It's basically committed, but what's committed with the work that needs to be done, and then they have this feeling of ownership. And of course, focusing, making sure that you do not try to work on 10 times at the same time. That's also the idea a bit of selecting few items in the product backlog to make sure that you can execute this sprint backlog. So you are focusing in only few items, not all the requirements that you have for the product. And again, if you compare those Scrum core values with the values that you have in the PMBOK 7 edition, that you're going to see that they align perfectly. And why? Because I just mentioned, any high performing team, they are going to have those values. You can look for those things on sports, on team sports, of course, or any types of organization around the world. Every time that you see a high performing team there, I bet that among the team members, you are going to be able to find those values. So those are the Scrum core values. Then, in general, what you're going to see, that sometimes you hear that 3-3-5. That means that Scrum has 3 roles with 3 artifacts with 5 events. What are those roles? The first one, that's the role is the product owner. The product owner is the idea of the product owner, that is going to be the value maximizer. That's the product owner there. He's the responsible for the product backlog, and he's also setting the priority there in the product backlog, because one of the very important things of Scrum, that you're going to be working based on prioritization, and the idea is high value items, they always go first. The Scrum Master is basically there as a true leader, helping the team to understand the team, the organization, and the product owner to understand what's the Scrum about, why how the Scrum framework should work on, and why it's important. He's the one to give trainings and to educate people about the Scrum. He's also there to support the team to clean your box and so on. Then the third role that you basically have, that's called the developers. The developers, it's a term that is there in general, does not mean that you are necessarily working on a software development process to have developers, but the developers, they are basically the team members. So they are the ones executing the work, they are the ones estimating the work during the planning, during the sprint plannings, they are the ones committing to the work, and they are the ones accountable for the work, of course, being executed. Note that if you are working with Scrum, there is no project manager role. This is a question that you are going to see also if you decide to take the PSM, Professional Scrum Master exam. There is no project manager on Scrum. So if you're a working organization, they are saying that they are using Scrum and your title is a project manager, you can be sure that you're not using exactly Scrum. Something also interesting that the product owner and Scrum Master, they also can be developers, they also can be team members executing the work, but they can accumulate more than one role. And always the product owner should be only one person. Then you have the artifacts, basically the increment. Why here the increment, you're looking again for the empirism, that you're going to have transparency, that you're going to inspect and adapt. Then every time an increment is basically one sprint, then you're going to build every sprint you build an increment in the product, and all the increments must be valuable and must be working. Then you have what's called the product backlog. Product backlog will be basically all the requirements and everything that needs to be done during the project. Then you can add there all the product requirements, but bugs, risk mitigation actions, and so on. The product owner is the responsible for the product backlog. He's the accountable for that. He's the only one that's allowed to enter or delete items from the product backlog. This is quite important because the product owner there, he's basically the gatekeeper from the scope of the project there. Then of course the product backlog can evolve. More you learn about the product backlog can keep evolving. That's natural. That's part of the Scrum. That's also the idea of having this incrementally. But everything needs to go via product owner. And you have the last one, of course, that's the sprint backlog. Basically, sprint backlog, you're going to select in sprint planning few items to be worked on the sprint, and then that's what the team is going to focus in the next few weeks after the sprint planning, and the next few weeks. Here then you have the events. The sprint itself, the sprint is basically the time boxing, because Scrum is about time boxing, meaning that in once the sprints can go from 1 week to 4 weeks, but never can be more than 4 weeks. Then again, if you're a working organization, they are saying that they do Scrum, but you have sprints that take longer than 4 weeks. They are not exactly following the Scrum framework. Then of course they have the sprint planning. The sprint planning basically is the event where the team gets together there to plan what they are going to do the next iteration, the next increment there. You have the dailies. Then the sprint planning should take, if you are talking about 1 month sprint, maximum 8 hours. You have the daily scrums that needs to happen every day. Then mainly the developers, they need to attend. The Scrum Master, the product owner, they're not mandatory there, but it's mandatory that you always have daily scrums, and the daily scrum, it should be maximum 15 minutes. Here I've seen people saying that we are working with Scrum, but we do dailies and the dailies have half an hour. That's not exactly following what's the Scrum, because also the idea of limiting the of time boxing of all those meetings is to avoid that you spend too much time on meetings instead of doing the work. Then you have what's called a sprint review. The sprint review, it's basically where the team and also the product owner and maybe some maybe customers or other important stakeholders that might be invited by the product owner because they have important feedback, that you are going to inspect the increment of the sprint, meaning that you are going to have a sprint, and then the deliverables they are going to be shown there in the sprint review. And with that, of course, you collect feedback and you understand what you need to adapt for the next sprint and what you need to create in the backlog or so on. And the last event is the sprint retrospective. The sprint retrospective, it's an event that's for the team, meaning product owners, scrum master, and developers, that the team here is going to reflect in what how they can improve the way of working among themselves. Things like they did good, they did well, things that they can start to do more, and how they really can start to improving for the next sprint. Here again, the idea is inspect transparency, inspect, and adapt. And here you see that if you are going for a sprint retrospective, it gets very important that you have this open respect and courage. Why? Because so you can discuss as a team how you can better work together. And here you are not going to focus like in the deliverables in the work, but more in the relations, how things are going, like how fast you can collect feedback, how we can communicate better with each other, and so on. This is quite important. Then every time you hear people talking about Scrum, the 335, it's meant by roles, artifacts, and events. Uh, Keep in mind there that it's if you're following Scrum by the Scrum guide, it's said there that you should follow those roles, artifacts, and events as it's prescribed. And if you're not following everything that's there, then you might not be then you're not executing Scrum. You might be executing something that's close to Scrum, but it's not exactly Scrum. So if you're working in your organization, they're cutting off some of those parts. That means the organization is not following 100% of the Scrum. And again, just talking about the roles, the product owner is the value maximizer there. The product owner is the voice of the customer. The product owner is the one setting the project vision, the goal, like articulating customer requirements. So the product owner basically he'll have a view, collecting requirements from all stakeholders and bring those things to the team. He's the responsible for that, and also he's the responsible to make sure that he's maximizing the value of the work from the Scrum team. How he's prioritizing always the items that have the highest value. The Scrum Master is basically the true leader there. You can see in the old Scrum Guide edition, they will talk about servant leader. In the last review, they changed it to a true leader because that's what a true leader does. Leading your team, empower your team, making sure that you are following those core values there. Of course, he's the facilitator. That means that he facilitates discussions among the team. He facilitates solving conflicts. He might facilitate meetings with the external stakeholders if the product owner asks for help. He is there to understand what needs to be done and make sure that he's always helping the Scrum team are clearly roadblocks, training people, conflict resolution, and so on. And of course, the developers, they're a multidisciplinary team. They execute the product. They are going to be the one creating the tasks and providing estimators. Here's a very important point that also needs to be aligned and understood, that only the developers are the one providing estimations. Meaning that you go for the sprint planning and the developers, they are the ones that they should say how much time they need to complete a specific item from the backlog. Then they are the ones they are going to provide this estimation, and they are the ones who are going to say how many items from the backlog they can commit to execute during the sprint. And again, make sure that you understand there is no project manager in the Scrum. Then if you look for a more traditional project manager, of course, you're going to see that usually a traditional project manager, he has some responsibilities of both product owner and Scrum Master. Here again, depends a lot how different organizations work. But keep in mind that if you're going to go for the PSM or the PSPO, professional Scrum product owner, and it's mentioned there the project manager is responsible for something. This is not right. There is no project manager in Scrum. I hope you like this content. Let me know if you have questions. This is intended just to give you a brief and short overview about Scrum. Yes, of course, there's more on that, but hopefully now you have a better understanding. I also have more content talking about Scrum. If you haven't seen that, you also can take a look. If you have questions, you can leave your questions here. If you like the content, please click in the button like it, and you also can share this video with other people that you think there might be interested on that. If you like the content again, also follow my YouTube channel and also follow my Instagram account. On Instagram, I share daily content on project management. There I'm going to talk about, there I usually share stuff on Scrum, Lean, Waterfall, leadership, finance, and all the other things that you need to learn and you need to understand to be a high performing project manager. In this case, of course, when you talk about Scrum, there's no project manager, but again, the name of your position is not so relevant. The relevant part is that you understand that you as a project manager or a product owner or a Scrum Master, that you are there to deliver value, that your job in the company is like solving a problem, making sure that that the project is delivering the value that's required there. And just another reminder, this is if you're interested in further develop your project management career, even if you say that you don't have experience or you're just starting with project management, that maybe you already know some parts of project management, but you don't have still a broader view there. I'm here inviting you to subscribe to the Project Management Journey. This is a very special event. The content will be available just for a limited period of time. So if you're interested in that, subscribe. I suggest you to join the WhatsApp group. And also if you can reply the survey. There I'm asking some information because I want to learn better your challenges, also to make sure how I can create better content, but how I can create the best content possible for the project management journey. That is all for today. Thank you and see you soon.